a lot of times we say these things, and as soon as you say them out loud, they sound a bit different. So like the story about Isaac and Abraham, is that Abraham is commanded by God to sacrifice his son. So he takes his son up to Mount Moriah, he takes out a knife, he bounds him up, and it's a really kind of an interesting thing because he's taking his son up there, and he doesn't tell his son what he has in mind. He's not saying, hey, let's go kill you. In fact, they're walking up there, and Abraham tells him, yeah, we're going to go make a sacrifice to God. And as they're going up the mountain, Isaac goes to Abraham, where's the sacrifice? And he says, oh, don't worry, God will provide the sacrifice. He's kind of looking around like, aren't we supposed to take something up there to kill? And Abraham's like, oh, don't worry, it's on the way. And there's almost like really this really dark undertone to it. And so finally, as they get up there, Abraham bounds him up, and he's going to kill him, and then God intervenes, the lashing angel intervenes at the last second and says, no, don't worry, there's a ram over there that's being cut up in the bushes, go ahead and sacrifice that. And so you can look at this as a test of faith. But there is all kinds of stuff in the Old Testament that you look at and you sit there and go, is that even the same God as the one from the New Testament? It seems very different. And there are a lot of rules in there.
They're rearranged.
But the question is, if it's true, then who are we to come along and say, you need to change it, you need to modernize it, you need to make it different? And if it's not true, well then of course you don't need that. And by the way, even if it's not literally true, there's still some interesting lessons that can be learned there. Like for example, if you take the story of Abraham and Isaac, you might say, well, this is a terrible story about a power-hungry God who's just testing people. Yeah, it's also a story about a person who believes in a higher ideal, something that's bigger than himself, and something that's even greater than even like his family. Something that he's willing to put everything on the line for. There's also a really interesting story there about sacrifice. Like we think about sacrifice, and to us, it's because, remember the story about the fish in the water? It's just the water that we swim in. To us, sacrifice is just like shoulder shrugging or whatever. It's a really, really deep idea. Why doesn't your cat sacrifice? Like why, if your cat's hungry, does your cat put food aside for later and say, this is for tomorrow?
No.
No, why not?
Because they're hungry.
They don't know if they're going to get the next day.
What's that?
They don't know if they're going to eat, like later.
They don't know if they're going to eat later, today? Do they have a concept of tomorrow?
No.
No. All they have is a concept of right now. The idea of being able to put something aside for an abstract tomorrow, 24-hour period, I'm going to fall asleep, I'm going to wake up, and then that's going to be a new day. The ability to conceptualize all of that is a really advanced idea. It isn't something that's so simple. To us it's simple because we've been raised up now for generations and generations and generations with this idea that there's such a thing as sacrifice. And that sacrifice is something that you're making a deal with the universe, or you're making a deal with God. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it aside, or I'm going to completely destroy this for the hope of a better tomorrow. I'm going to take the thing I have right now in my hand, available to me at this exact moment, and then I'm going to get rid of it with the hope that tomorrow is going to be even better, that somehow it's going to lead to something better. This doesn't quite make sense to us unless you have a deep belief structure and an abstract understanding of such a thing that there is a tomorrow. And by the way, this is something that people struggle with a lot. Today, people struggle with this a lot. Like, you look at something like Abraham. Abraham's up there, he's like, I'm going to sacrifice my son. Shit, most of us won't sacrifice 5 minutes of sleep. Most of us won't roll up the bag of chips after eating only half. Most of us, the idea of sacrifice in a country and in a world in which we have so much, we don't have to sacrifice. There is no deal that we have to make with tomorrow in our own minds. But our lives would be made infinitely better if we did sacrifice things. You give up these 5 minutes today for something better, to be somewhere out, just to be somewhere on time. Because then you're not scurrying around, you're not trying to catch up. And if you're not scurrying around, if you're not catching up, then that means that it matters very little to you. And that means that you're going to be way behind, and you won't even know what you're missing. You won't even know how far behind you are, because you won't even know what you don't even know. You have to be there to know what it is that you're even missing in the first place. We won't sacrifice, our immediate comfort on a couch to go and get into better physical shape. Why would we want to get into better physical shape? Because your mind works better Your brain works better. Your whole life works better when you're in better physical shape. You know, instead we're, oh, I'm going to eat this thing instead. Exercise, I thought you said extra fries, ha ha ha. People will actually buy t-shirts advertising their sloth, which is a funny thing, because the tragedy of that, and it is a real tragedy, is that you're never going to know what you could have been capable of. You're never going to know what your body could have done and how it could have inspired your mind and how the whole thing of your life could have come together much, much better. And that you would have lived much longer. You'd have lived much more fulfilling life. You'd have been doing so many other things because we don't gather with the idea of sacrifice. And to look, therefore, at that story, for example, of Abraham and Isaac, and to say, this is a person who is willing to sacrifice the most precious thing to him in his entire life, to sit there to a greater ideal and say, yes, Lord, not to grumble about it. Do you think he was happy to do it? He was like, oh, good, this guy eats too much. Come on, Isaac, let's sacrifice you. No,
You're the one.
he took the thing that was most precious to him, and then said, well, this is going to be for something better. What was the better thing? He didn't even know. It wasn't like God said, if you sacrifice this, I will give you all of this other stuff. He is rewarded in that way, by the way, according to the story. Because of his willingness to sacrifice, he's rewarded in a whole bunch of other areas. And that's the thing, is that had he not been willing to carry out the sacrifice, he never would have known what he was capable of. He never would have known what the blessings were going to be. And that's the same with us. That if we don't make certain sacrifices, then we're never going to know what life could have been like. Now, true, we might look at it and go, yeah, but if I sacrifice this bag of chips, I'll never know how tasty they could have been. Yeah. But where do you think the greater blessings are? You know, to sacrifice a little bit today, or even a lot today. And by the way, we set the bar very low sometimes, and we say, just sacrifice a little. Okay, well, if you sacrifice a little, what do you get back? A little. Sacrifice a lot, you get a lot back. And you know,
Same value.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you invest money. That's a sacrifice. You're taking money that's in your hands right now, and you're saying, I'm going to put this aside someplace else, and I may never get it back. It's an act of faith. I may never get this back. But if you do, how much you put into it is going to determine how much you get out of it. It's a silly story, but it's the same idea. I was in Las Vegas a very, very long time ago. I think and I was walking with a friend of mine. I remember we're at the Rio Hotel. There was some friends, and we're going to go eat dinner. And I said, hey, let me get some money for dinner real quick. I was joking. I put a quarter in a slot machine, pulled it, and she came out. I won like $35 or something like that for one quarter. And I thought, that's pretty cool. You know, it was just a joke. I was just like, oh yeah, let me just, false confidence. And of course, as soon as it pays out, my friends come and they go, oh my God, how much did you put in? A quarter. Dude, if you put in $1, you'd have gotten back, you got back 200 if you put in just $1. So of course, in their minds now, they're thinking, well, you should have gambled all of this. You know, it was like one quarter would have put out. If I had put in the $1, yeah, I would have gotten a bunch more back. You know, and you can look at, don't think of it in that gambling metaphor. I'm not telling you to go out and bet it all.
Oh, I know.
Although, but yeah, don't go out and bet it all.
Where's the although?
But it's a metaphor to understand this. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So it's like basically the summarization is like if you like don't sacrifice something like doing right now, like if you don't sacrifice something that's value, like right now for example is like if I don't finish like this homework assignment right now.
I did hear that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's a competition. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's like you sacrifice the time you need to do your work right now, you might miss the opportunities you have in the future that could help you later on. That's the idea from this experience.
And what those sacrifices are, that's the thing, is that it's difficult to conceptualize. You're sitting and you're watching television or whatever, you could be reading. And it doesn't have to, and by reading I'm not just saying pick up the most uninteresting thing that you can and read it. No, I'm saying pick up something that is interesting. Pick up something that does get your mind going. Because that could be the thing that drives you in the direction of becoming an expert in some area. Which, by the way, leads to a great deal of fulfillment in life. Now, you'll never know that. What you do know is what life is like right now, as you are. But to be able to conceptualize what you could become, that is really hard to do. And I'm sure you have, well, scratch that, I'm not sure, but maybe you have a lot of people around you saying, oh my goodness, you could do great things. You can accomplish so much. You can be anything. Oh, there's a lot of gray area in there, man. You cannot be anything you want to be. You cannot be anything that you want to be. That's just negative talk. No, it's truth. You can be a lot more than you realize that you can be. But you can't be anything that you want to be. You cannot be a bus. I don't care if you jump on the freeway and run as fast as you want.
I want to be a coat hanger.
Some of you are never, you seem like a good dude, man. You're never going to play for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, there's certain things that, there are certain limitations that in our play. Well, it's like myself. I played baseball through high school. I played baseball in college. I played baseball at UCLA. And people ask me, how come you didn't play in the majors? Because the guys who played at MLB, those guys are gods. You have any idea how good those people are? Even your worst MLB player is infinitely better than most college players. You know, those people who play at that level, it's like anybody who plays in the NBA, if he's going to go, that guy sucks, put him on any other court in the world. That person will destroy anybody else that they come across.
He will break.
You look at a professional tennis player and you go, oh, that guy sucks, he's ranked like 98th in the world. Put that 98th rank in the world against almost anybody else who's not a professional, and you'll see what happens. You know, I didn't play professional baseball because I wasn't good enough. I was good enough to get a jersey at UCLA, but not good enough to play at MLB. And and by the way, to do that, I sacrificed quite a bit to get to that level. Now, so was it a waste? No. It's an interesting thing, but it wasn't a waste because there's a lot that you pick up along the way.
Yeah, actually, you commonly get the idea like a lot now because I've seen that actually online when it comes to games. Like, wow, you commonly get this. It's like when you see somebody that play a game, they lose. It's like, oh, this man sucks, and then we get this opinion. You think you could do better? And then realize the level gap between them, and then they realize, oh, this man's. Oh, I see how it is. And then they got the idea from there, and then you could realize, oh, they took some time, effort, they sacrificed time, they should have done an effort just to practice this game. Yeah. And do you think you can do better than that? No.
Now, if that person took that same amount of practice and put it into something else, would they be great at that? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And by the way, that's not to, please don't take from that I'm disparaging gaming. I play games, I enjoy them as well. My point is just that when you pick something and you really commit yourself to it, that means you're sacrificing a lot of other things, but you're sacrificing them towards the goal, and the goal, of course, being that somehow at the end of all of it, you're going to manifest into something greater.
Yeah.
Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms? We almost touched the quote.